Hi guys, this is Kyle from Regrettable Props, and today we're doing the next part in the Republic Commando tutorial series on how to make your own foam cosplay armor. Templates are going to be linked in the description. You're going to be needing Pepakura Designer to be able to access those files and be able to adjust them. I'll have links to those, both of them, as well in the description. And once we've adjusted the templates and scaled them, we're going to want to print them out, cut them, tape the pieces together if we need to, if any of the pieces were too big to fit onto one piece of paper. As you currently see, the big piece that I have is all taped together, and I'm just using floor mat foam 5 millimeters in thickness. I picked this up from my dollar store, and then you're just going to trace all the pieces onto the foam. What you're going to want to do after you print them out is have one side be labeled the right side and the other side be labeled the left side. So once you have them all cut out and traced, we're going to work on a couple pieces individually. The piece that you currently saw was the piece that I'm currently working on is the one that you saw that was on screen. I'm going to be jumping in a little bit here and there on some of these parts, but most of it's just going to be pretty simple following what I do. This piece here, you see I broke it up into different sections, and that's because there's a lot of 90-degree or hard corners that need to be achieved, and we couldn't do that if we did some underlaying cuts in the foam. And what I mean by that is cutting it from behind but not all the way through. So to achieve these hard corners, we need to get some 45-degree cuts, and we had to break it up. You can see on your templates there's going to be a dotted line and a dot dash dot line. The dotted line is going to mean to fold down, while the dot dash is going to mean that you would fold it up. So from that, you should have an understanding of how these pieces are going to be orientated, like you currently see on this piece of paper, how it's cut, or how the fold marks are. So you're just going to want to apply those to your pieces of foam, and just, if you don't fully understand what I mean by that, or you have a hard time understanding the markings for folding up or down, just follow what I'm doing on screen, and I'll touch back to you when we have to go over another part in detail. Once we have all those pieces cut and glued, this is what it's going to look like for the final assembly of that piece. I glued it off screen. Now we're going to be working on another piece which has the same process, folding down on the template to figure out where you need to break off sections. This piece, I should say, has more hard corners, which we are achieving by breaking the one piece into many pieces, doing 45-degree cuts, and then gluing it back together to get the correct shape that we are trying to achieve. I'm just going to let the same thing happen on screen. Dotted lines for folding down, dot dash is for folding up. Just follow what I do on screen. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll touch back later in the video. Once we have all those pieces cut and glued, this is what the final assembly is going to look like for that one piece we just worked on, and it's going to be getting glued in that little cutout section. And we're going to be doing some more and what we're going to be doing now is some undercuts on this piece that you currently see. We're going to be folding that tab, or where it is on the very back of the initial paper template, so that way we can trace a line on where we want to score on the back of this piece of foam. We want to not cut all the way through, but just do enough so that we are able to fold that piece of the foam upright, so we have a hard 90 degrees without having an additional seam. And then we're just going to be cutting off the inside portion, doing an inward cut of that top edge of additional 45 degrees. And also we have to take off the foam on the inside portion of this piece that we just worked on before this one, cutting off 45 degrees as well. That way we get a hard 90-degree angle between multi-pieced one piece like you currently see in my hand, and the part of the foam that folds upright. And once we've cut off all those pieces, we're going to have it gluing together like you currently see right here, where that piece folds up and where we cut off those 45-degree inward cuts. And then once it's all hot glued, this is what it's going to look like. And we're going to move on to connecting the rest of the foam armor pieces. And we're going to be cutting using that big piece of foam, and this is the vast majority of the forearm. And we're going to be starting on this side and hot gluing it to this piece that we've just been working on, but you're going to want to leave a little bit of a lip so that way it's erased, and you're just going to want to glue that one side first. Once the glue has stopped drying, this is what it's going to look like, and we're just going to connect the other side. You want to make sure you leave a little bit of a lip so that middle part is raised. Once that's glued, you're going to move on to gluing these pieces together. You just want to have them be a flush seam on this side, and same for the other, which you currently see on screen. And we're just going to hot glue those together and continue to move along onto these rounded sections that have the opening gaps like you currently see. We're going to be using these pieces that we glued together earlier, which I didn't include on camera unfortunately, but they had darts that were cut out and we glued all those pieces together. It's not a really hard part, but you just want to kind of sandwich this piece in there. It's tilted inwards and it has a bit of a raised section. You're going to want to do that same for the top of the left and right side of this forearm gauntlet. Once you have that glued together, we're going to be moving on to this small middle piece. I'm using 10mm foam, and there was no real template for it. And to get this orientation, I cut an undercut on the one side towards the top of the gauntlet, and I'm just having a 90-degree cut on the one side and having a slight angled cut on the other, and then having it be raised up. And here you can see, compared to my first forearm for the Republic Commando, it's the one I just made currently is missing the elbow flat butt. We'll be covering that on later in another video, as well as sanding these seams and filling them in. I'm going to save it for one whole video. I hope you guys stay tuned for the next part. If you guys are wanting to stay tuned for this build, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment on what you would like to see being built after this series, or if you have any comments or questions, I will try and answer them as quickly as possible. And this was Kyle from Regrettable Props, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.